All right. So we start the Microsoft PowerPoint last week, and we discuss how we are going to, what are the things that we can see on the interface, right? And what are the components, right? So yes, Gavindu, you can, right? So then we talk about these components there, like the quick access toolbar, the title bars, tabs, and all these things. We talk about those. And I think we didn't talk about these views. Today I'm going to tell you what are those views and why these things are available for us. What are the use of it as well. And we didn't talk about the LibreOffice because we have to talk about one of these things, either the MS PowerPoint or the LibreOffice Impress, right? So we are going with the Microsoft PowerPoint. And we talk about different kinds of layout that a particular slide can have, right? And we talk about how to take a new slide as well, right? So then we talk about how to change the layout as we want regarding a particular slide, right? And we discuss about the things, how to apply a different background to that slides. And we discuss like we can add any particular color we want. We can add any particular image we want. And there are some designs available in the PowerPoint software, so we can use those if we want, right? So we discuss how the, literally how the background is going to change. And as well as we talk about like if you want to add the contents, especially if you want to add the text on the slide, it is the text boxes that we are using. And as well as like if you want to add any objects onto your slide, you can use the shapes, you can use the images, you can use the tables, you can use the smart arts, you can use the 3D models, right? So different kinds of objects that you can take or like import or like insert onto a slide. As well as like we talk about when the objects are being placed on a particular slide, how we can animate those, right? So to do the animation, we need to search the animation methods, or like we have to use the animation methods which is provided by the PowerPoint. We didn't talk about the slide transition as I remember. Today I'm going to show you those as well. So inserting an animation we did, right? So we get to know like there are 3 kinds of animations, like the animation which illustrate or which animate the entrance to the slide. And there are animation which we can apply when the object is on the slide. We call them the emphasize animations. And then we discuss what are the animations that we can use on a particular object to show that it's been exit from the slide. And other than that, we talk about like there can be, we can animate a particular object in a way it can have a motion path on the slide, right? So different kinds and very attractive things that we can do with the animations if you think creatively. Then after we talk about how to control the animation, like we discuss how to start a particular animation. We can set it just by clicking the mouse, or like allowing it to happen with the previous, or we can allow it to happen after the previous animation. As well as we can adjust the duration regarding animation using the animation pane, as well as we can add some delay to show some particular delay on an animation, right? Then we talk about how to insert a sound into a particular slide, and we get to know like sound can be inserted in a place that we want in any slide in our presentation. And there are ways that we can hide the sound icon and let the sound just play as a background music. if we really want to play it from the beginning until the end of the presentation, still we got some ways of doing that as well, right? Other than that, we talk about how to insert a video, and we get to know like a video can be adjust according to our requirement with the scope of the slide, right? We can have a smaller videos, we can have a bigger videos, like we can have full screen videos if we want, right? So there are many options, and the controllers are there with the player when we insert a particular video. And today we are going to talk about what can we, like how can we use a presentation to be printed, right? There are different ways that we can print this particular PowerPoint presentation. And yeah, that will be all regarding the presentation. Then after we'll switch to the new lesson. So I'm going to use my own particular presentation which I have created for you to illustrate how the transition can be done with the presentation, as well as how the printing part can be done, and the different kinds of view, the helping of different kinds of view regarding a presentation, right? So what can we do is, I'll take the presentation that I'm going to introduce to you. Yeah, hold on, not this one. Yep. So this is one of the presentation that I have done for the Guru Gedara programs. So as you can see, like I got how many 45 slides regarding this presentation, and if you can recognize over here, you can see some slide with a star mark and without a star mark. So that indicates that particular slide contains either a slide transition or an animation, right? So in this case, in my case, it's an animation actually, not this slide transition. I haven't applied any slide transition for this presentation. So this indicates there are animations on that particular slide. So slide number 14 does not have any animation. 12 and 13 has, right? And as well as the viewpoints or the viewing methods. I'm sorry. Right. So here at the below of this, at the bottom of this presentation, I got these view modes. So the first one is called the normal view, which is the view that you can see here, right? You got the slides at your left as a storyline, and then you can see the current slide that you are working for the moment. And the next view is called the slide sorter, right? So the slide sorter is helping us to manage the slide in our presentation, right? We can change it, we can shift it here and there according to the according to our requirement, and we can manage the particular line, particular lineup of the presentation. Once we are done with the presentation, if you want to change the positions of a particular slide, we can just click and drag them the way we want, right? So it is that flexible when it comes to the slide sorter view, right? Even by reducing the like zooming out using the zoom controller, I can see my entire list of slide just by one view, right? So other than that, the next view mode is the read-in mode, right? Or the read-in view. So once I click that, I'm getting my presentation in a read-in mode. So you can see like there are two buttons right over here, which is activated. So I can make my slides, move my slides here and there, right? So if I click this, I'm given some particular facilities over here. So like go to the next, go to the previous, go to the slide number, any particular slide number that I want. To zoom in, zoom out, full screen, and show, there are different kind of things, right? So this is something very similar to the presentation view, but it has the title bar at the top of it, right? And it has the status bar at the bottom of it. When you are playing the slideshow, which I can perform using this particular icon over here, the slideshow. So if I click the slideshow, you won't see any particular status bar or title bars regarding this. It's just your presentation totally given on the screen, right? So when you have something like this, with the use of mouse click or the way that you have arranged it, you can continue the session, right? Yadisha, we don't have any practicals for our examination. It's just a paper that we are receiving. So in the paper, we will be, it will be testing, like we know about the Excel, the database majorly, the Word and the PowerPoint, not as much as Excel and database, but they will check. Right, so you don't have a practical exam, right? But the knowledge that you acquire through the practicals will be tested, right? So you can end a session just by clicking it. So as you can see, there are some animations over here that I am using, right? These kind of animations. So each and everything works for the mouse click. So while I'm talking to you, I'm clicking my mouse to take the animations. So likewise, you can give different kinds of animation according to your requirement of the presentation, right? So that is why we are having these 4 particular mods, Vivin mods, for us to be used. And then I'm coming to the transition part. Like this transition indicates like changing from one slide to another. So it says how the transition should happen, in which nature the transition should happen. So first you can apply this to a one particular slide and test whether it is suitable for you. Then after you can, if you want actually, you can apply the particular slideshow to the entire slide, right? So entire presentation actually, right? So first you can test it using a one particular slide. So if I click on my first slide and if I choose this wipe as a transition method, so once I click it, you can see it shows the preview of the effect, right? And you can change the effect or like you can change how the effect applies from this effect option, right? So regarding the wipe transition, this tells you to which direction the wiping should happen, right? So it can be done for the right, to the top, to the left, from the bottom, right? So there are many ways, from the corners, likewise. So likewise, most of the transition modes will be having some effects, but there are some transition modes which does not contain the effects, right? So there is no rule that every transition mode should have an effect, right? There will be some of these which actually does not have any effects, right? So somehow you can choose what kind of a transition that you need to choose, right? And if you are satisfied with that transition, you can apply it to other slides by clicking on apply to all. And again, if you want to apply a particular sound to a particular transition, you can apply that as well. If you want to apply it to one particular slide, again, you can apply it to that particular slide. Or if you want to apply it to all, then you can give the command saying apply to all, right? So here I am, here I have applied this split transition to this particular slide. So you can see the star is indicating the transition. So that's why I told you this can be like the star is indicating either an animation or a transition, right? Earlier I was telling you. So if you hit the apply to all, you will see like this particular star will be applied to all the slides which does not contain in a star. If you want to apply a particular sound, it's better you apply the sound and test whether it is okay for you. So if I if I click on this drum roll, right, and if I share the screen with sound, you can hear how the sound is going to appear. Right here, I'm playing the slideshow. Right, so that's the particular sound effect that we have given. And moving to the next slide, nothing, no any transition has applied over here. So what I'm going is, I'm going to the first slide, right? Then I'm going to say apply to all. So now you can see the star marks or the star icons are now applied to every particular slide, indicating that a particular animation or particular transition has added into to these slides that is in your presentation. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the presentation, or I'm going to take this. So it is applied to this. Now I'm clicking to move into the next slide. So you can see the same effect, same sound is applied. If I'm moving to the third one, the same thing happens, right? And be very careful, people, when you are adding sounds and these kind of transitions to your slide. If you need to create a professional PowerPoint presentation, it should be like less noisy one, right? If you want, if you need to apply any particular sound, it should be done accordingly, appropriately. Sounds. It doesn't give you a professional idea about this, right? But a particular transition that can be done, right? So how we are going to get rid of the sound? You can select no sound and say apply to all. So then it won't apply any particular sound with the slide, right? And there are many different transition modes over here, people. So you can try all these things, right? Even there are like animations like opening a curtain, transitions like opening a curtain, right? In most of the cases, when I am doing a particular presentation, I tend to use this cube, right? And with that, my presentation goes like this. All right, so once I click it, it changes like this from one slide to another. Right, so it's according to your requirement again, right? So choose what is suits for you, right? Yeah, people, give me a second, right? I will return soon. Right, sorry for that. And yeah, so you can apply the transitions on that way. And from here, you can manage the duration regarding a transition, as well as like on advance in the slide, you can take out how the slide transition should happen, whether it is on the click or whether it is after some particular time. You can adjust that from here, right? So if you add like 2 seconds, and if you apply that to all the slides in your presentation, you don't need to click the mouse. You can just play it, and within 2 seconds, it will change. See, 1, 2, it's changed, and 1, 2, it's changed. So here I'm not pressing my mouse, right? This is just changing 2 second by 2 second. All right. So like sometimes you may need that kind of things. Sometimes you are not. Now for my presentation, this method is not suitable because I can't explain my slide with just 2 seconds, right? So according to your requirement, again, you can choose whether it is go on a mouse click or after some particular time, or else you can choose both the options, right? Or time limit එක ටිකක් වැඩි ගානක් දීලා mouse click එකක් තියලා තියන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට mouse click කරාම එයා change වෙනවා. නැත්නම් time එක ඉවර වුණාම automatically change වෙනවා. Right. So that is what we have to learn regarding the transition, right? So now I'm going to show you about the printing of a particular slide show or a particular presentation. So you can go to the file and you can go select the print. So when you go to the print screen, it by default, it is there to print the entire slide, or like one particular slide to one particular page, right? So if you want, you can choose what kind of slides or which slides that you need to get printed. Here they have choose all the slides to be get printed. If you want, you can do a selection, or else you can say print the current slide, which you can see for the moment, or you can give a custom range, right? And this particular text box is there. So if you say print the from second slide to 5th slide, so it is only those slides will be printed, right? So my first slide will be this, the second slide, and it's only the 5th one, right? 2 to 5 to 3, 4, 5, only 4 pages. And again, I can choose how the printing should happen. Like, is it if I need to print it in as a full screen one or like a full page one, I can keep these settings, or else I can ask the presentation to print the presentation, like with the slides and the notes, right? So you remember what are the notes are, right? So like yes, Yadisha, that is what I am talking for the moment, right? Right, so you can choose how you are going to print the things. So either the full slide or the slide with the notes, and notes will be there if you add any notes over here. Now, if I type some things over here, that's my notes. So I have typed some random numbers over here. So once I go to File and Print, you can see now my slide is here and the content is just under it. If I choose the full page slide, you won't see any notes over here, right? And even you can ask to write, print the outline, right? So it will print the points in your slide right over here, right? And as well as you can create handouts using this. So when you are printing the handouts, you can choose how many slides that should come to you, a particular page, right? So you can say 2 slides per page and 3 slides per page if you want. 4 slides horizontally, 6 slides likewise. You can change as much as you want, right? And you can choose some different kinds of settings right over here, which we are not very much concerned into. So likewise, you can get printed a particular presentation as a handout. Right, so that will be all regarding the PowerPoint presentations. So is there any questions regarding this paper? Otherwise, I can move to the next lesson, which is the database. And again, I want you to remind, you got some particular homework where you have to create a presentation like on any topic that you like, right? So just send it to me as an email so I can go through whether you have captured this very well. Only 10 slides maximum for your presentation. It can be less than that, right? And yeah, use the techniques that you have learned, right? And if you don't remember, just refer the recordings. You can see that, right? So it will be the end of that particular lesson, the PowerPoint. Yes, any questions? If not, I can start the database. Okay, right. So since there is no any questions, I'm switching to the database lesson. All right, so this is the final lesson that we are going to do in grade 10, which is the database, right? So this is talking about a particular way or like a method where we can store the data in a system, systematically, right? So we are going to learn about what is a database and what kinds of database we have, and how the database can be used to make our life easy. And we are going to use the software called MS Access to do the practicals regarding this. And it is a very complex software where we use it for many different advanced database options. But in our syllabus, we are not going to use it into that extent, but the most basic stuff will be given and will be taught during the database lesson. All right. So before we move to the practicals, there are some theory parts that we have to learn. Especially we need to learn what is a database first. Then we are going to see what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages we are facing when we are using a particular database. Right? Now, first of all, we have to identify what is a database. So like a database is a place where we store the data in some systematic way. All right? So it can be a manual storing part, like using a pen or a pencil. You are just writing on a book the data. So that is considered as a manual data storing or a manual database, right? So if you use some particular electronic device and store the data inside it, so you are creating an electronic database. So there are two major categories or two types actually. One is called the manual database, the other one is called the electronic database, right? And when it comes to the manual database and the electronic database, the best example that we can take, even in your book, they have taken is the telephone directory or like the contact list. So all of you have the experience regarding the contact list in a mobile device, right? So in a mobile device, we list down the contacts that we have. So it is a collection of data in an electronic device. So we call it an electronic database. In early days, like if you think about my father and mother, before the electronic devices arrived over here, or like before mobiles arrived over here, they had these land phones and they were storing the contact details on a particular book, which you call the phone book, right? So that particular book is also categorized according to the alphabetical order. And our parents were storing the data regarding the people on this specific page. If that particular person's name starts from S, they are going to mention it on the page which is allocated for letter S, right? It's something very same that you can see in the picture when it comes to the telephone directory. So it's a manual one. We use a pen or pencil and we write down the contact. When it comes to the contact list on the phone, it is a digital or electronic one. And if you think about these two things, the manual database and the digital database, generally we can define a database as a collection of organized data which can be defined as a database. So that suits for any kind of database people, right? For a manual one, for an electronic one, right? And here they are talking about the advantages of databases, and specifically here they are talking about the advantage of electronic database. They were missing, they were losing the word which is called the electronic, which is to indicate the electronic. And again, don't misunderstand people. Like if we take database is only a electrical thing, right? Or like electronic related thing. It can be on a book, right? Like the phone book. So the advantages of an electronic database over a manual database are listed below. So it says more efficient in retrieving the information. All right. So in a particular electronic database, like if you take the contact list, you can search a contact very quickly, right? So like just by typing the word, it will filter the things. But when it comes to the phone book, if you ask to find that particular contact detail, so it will take time. It is like when it comes to the phone book, the manual one is a systematic one. It has the contacts according to the alphabetical order, but still it takes to turn the page and search it manually. So it will take time compared to the electronic database. And again, it is easy to obtain copies when it comes to the electronics. All right, so we can copy a particular database very easily. All right. But if you're thinking about copying the manual database or that the phone book that my parents had, I have to photocopy it, or I have to take the book and write the contacts one by one into another book. That is how I'm going to have a copy. So it takes time again. It's not an easy task. And yeah, comparatively smaller physical space to store data. Right. So if you take like, if you consider a mobile phone can have like how many? Like 7,000 to 8,000 contacts in a small device. But if you're going to write those things on a book may need several different pages, as well as we need a particular storage or a place to store the book, which is bigger than the space that they have, the electronic database has taken inside the mobile phone. So literally, like frankly talking, if you are going to store 10,000 contacts on a book, as well as inside a mobile phone, if you take an exercise book, you may need all the pages of the exercise book. Let's assume a book which has 80 pages. So comparatively, the space that is taken by the electronic device is very small, right? So it's smaller physical space to store data. And data analysis can be carried out efficiently, right? It is, right? Like come to the contact list again. If you want to see how many contacts are there, starting from letter B. So you can just find out just by filtering the contacts from B. But if you want to figure it out from the manual database, so you have to turn and you have to count it by yourself, right? It's not very easy to analyze, right? And when you are having an electronic database, you can track the things that you have done, right? To whom that you have dialed today, to whom that you have dialed yesterday, right? So, but when it comes to the manual database, we can't track those things. We don't write the contacts on a particular piece of paper to indicate who has to whom that I have called today and to whom that I'm going to that I have called yesterday. We are not writing it on a particular piece of paper, right? So it's not easy to analyze. Data can be shared, right? So like the same database can be used in different application softwares. Like again, take the mobile phone. Like you have different kinds of chat applications: WhatsApp, Viber, right? Emo, Telegram, different kinds of things, right? So all the contacts which is being used by those applications is from your contact list. So your contact list is one particular object or one particular database. It is being used by many different applications. Manual database is not like that, right? It is definitely cannot be used by many different applications. And in simple terms, if me and my father needs to use the telephone book, the manual one, in the very same time, it will be harder for us to do. I have to wait until he is done with his work, then only I will be able to use it. So sharing is not possible, right? And which is not probable as well. The last one is called the independence of data. Now that's something important and that's something technical. Independence means your database can be connected or like can be moved uh, without changing the application softwares, right? So like if you just think about the contact list, like the Google contact list, right? You can use the same Google contact list in many different devices, right? So it is not depend on a one particular device or one particular component. But manual one is not like that. Once you've written inside the book, it's only that book. So we have to rely upon on that book, right? But when it comes to the electronic database, using the softwares or using the facilities like cloud computing, we can store the things and we can have it on any different device. So we can port it very easily, right? So we call them, it got independence, right? So those are the advantages of the electronic database. So before we move further, let's write some things down, people, right? So please take down the main topic, database, the 9th unit. And then let's have these lines actually plus the next line as well. Which defines what is manual database and electronic database. Okay, one is done. How about others? All right, people, I will give you some time. Right. Are we done? Can we move forward, people? Anyone who is still writing? Okay, moving forward. Yeah, then let's write about this definition about the database. And when you are done with the definition, let's write the advantages of databases. We are not going to describe those people. We are just writing this in the point form. And let me know when you are done. All right, one is done. How about others? Anyone who is still writing this? So if you are done, you have to copy these two as well. And when it comes to the independence of data, people, please write the entire thing since it is a new terminology. Okay, are we done, people? Okay, anyone who is still writing? Okay, so moving forward. So next we are going to talk about the features of a database. Right now, this of course actually not only about the electronic database. People, I really had that mistake. I was having the idea of saying for you to write this like advantages of database, advantages of electronic database. So it's much better after this heading. මේ heading එක ඉවර වුණාම ඒ heading එකට ඉස්සරහින් වරහන් ඇතුලේ within brackets you put electronic, the word electronic, because they are talking about all the advantages of an electronic database. So advantages of databases within brackets electronic. Please do the amendment. Right. Yes, Gavindu, after this, and like may heading එක ලියපු තැන advantages of databases කියලා heading එක ලියපු තැන වරහන් ඇතුළේ ලියාගන්න electronic කියන වචනේ. Right. So after that, we can talk about the features of the databases. Now, here we are going to talk about, again, considering all the databases, like either the manual or the electronics, right? All the databases. So the first one is minimal data redundancy. So redundancy is a new word for you all, right? So redundancy means they have defined it very clearly. If the same data is stored in several tables, is called data redundancy, right? So take it clearly, people. If the same data is stored in several tables, is called data redundancy. So they have given some example over here to identify what is data redundancy is. So you can see like there are two tables, which is the admission table and the library table over here. So admission table contains student number, name, date of birth, date of admission, and name of the guardian. So that is, those are the details regarding a particular student. And the library table that contains student name, name of the book, and borrowed date and return date. So in the student table or the admission table, it contains the details regarding the students. In the library table, it contains the details regarding the borrowings. Right? So as you can see, there is a student called Firoza Lai earlier. Her name was changed into Firoza Rafik, her or he, I don't know. Name is changed into the Firoza Rafik. So to do such change in this database, they have to go through on this particular field as well as this particular field as well as this particular field. Now assume that Firoza Lai has borrowed the book for 100 times in case. So that means in the library table, we have to change the name for 100 times, which is not easy, people. Right? So that this is what we call data redundancy, or like data being redundant. So the same data displays or duplicated in several different points, right? Which makes the database is a weaker one, an unreliable one, inefficient one, right? Because on a particular searching, on a particular updation, on a particular deletion, on a particular modification, they have to go through each and every record that has the same data, right? So in electronic databases, or like well-defined database, or in other words, we call a relational database, that is what we are going to learn from the MS Access, they have their techniques to reduce or to get rid of this data redundancy. And in the latter part, they have shown you how they are going to do that. Right? Here they have taken 3 tables, right? As you can see, right? These 3 tables has relational, this is what you call relational database. So the first one contains the student details, and the last table contains the book details. And the middle table contains who has borrowed the books. But they have done a major change in here. Here they have given a book number, and they have created a separate table called book table, which contains the details of the books. And then what they have done is, in the borrowing table, they have referred the student number and the book number to indicate who has borrowed that particular book. Now, how this is able to reduce the data redundancy? Now, earlier you can remember, in the early example, Firoza Rafik was repeated, that means the student name was repeated on each and every transaction that a particular student is doing. But here, instead of repeating the student name, they are repeating the student number and the book number. Right? So 100 student, the student who got the 100 admission number, has borrowed the book number 3333. So in case now, if this has the same problem, Firoza Lai needs to be changed as Firoza Rafiq, you can see it's only one particular place that you need to update. Like when it comes to these values, the student numbers and the book numbers, they are not going to change. They are not going to change if the other attributes of that component is going to, even though the other attributes of that component is changed. That means ළමයාගේ නම වෙනස් වුණා කියලා එයාගේ admission number එක කවදාවත් වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Think about yourself. Think about your admission number. Right? You have given an admission number from the school. So that admission number belongs to you. If you are changing the name, it doesn't matter. They don't change the index number because index number represents you, not your name. Right? So name is kind of an attribute of yours. So if your name has changed, okay. So they are changing the record, the only record, the only one record in the database. So it does not allow you to have unwanted repetition, right? Even when you are going through these tables, you can see there are repetitions, right? If you come to the middle, the second table, the borrowing table, there are repetitions. 101 is repeated over here. 100 is repeated over here, right? But it is not an unwanted repetition, people. That is a needed repetition. Otherwise, the database will not be able to track who has borrowed the book called 3333, right? But when it comes to the earlier situation, this is an unwanted repetition. Even this record indicates who has borrowed this. But the problem is, if something going to change, it affects on each and every record that they have used the student name. But in here, they are not. So this is what we call a relational database, and we are going to talk how the relational databases are formed, right? That is been described at the latter part of the lesson. But this is how you are eliminate or like reduce the data redundancy that is happening inside a database. Okay, people, are you clear with what is called redundancy and how it can be reduced? So in simple terms, avoiding unwanted data repetition. So unwanted data repetition is called the redundancy. Reducing the redundancy means like avoiding or reducing the unwanted data duplication. Okay, so next they are talking about the data consistency. Now consistency means like staying particular thing without being changed for a considerable amount of period, right? So now, do you know who is given the name as Mr. Consistence in the cricket world? Who has given the name Mr. Consistence? Yes, boys? Anyone? He is not playing cricket now, but he is a very proud Sri Lankan. He's called the Mr. Consistence. Not the Sanath. He is called the Master Blaster. Right? He's not the Mr. Consistence. It's Kumar. Yes, it's Kumar. It's a Kumar Sangakkar who has given the name Mr. Consistence. Right? So it is because his playing is very consistent. He's not leaving the wicket. Whenever he is coming, he is like staying and anchoring and playing the match. And in most of the cases, he is out on a very like after he has done his work, right? So consistent means something like that. It will be there as it is for a long time. So when you reduce the redundancy, consistency is automatically increased. Why it has been all automatically increased? Because you are getting less amount of places to be changed. That's nice. So I did it by myself. Very good, very good. So the data consistency will be increased by minimizing the data redundancy. Right? So if the redundancy is increased, consistency will be decreased. So we call it data inconsistency happens. Inconsistency, right? The not meaning. Data consistency will be guaranteed when the data redundancy is minimizing or reducing, right? So like according to the previous example, here in the relational database, only this name is going to be changed if it's need to be changed, right? Otherwise, there will be no changes. But before that, if the name need to be changed, we had to do changes in several different places. So it is less consistency. Here we have more consistency. Okay, people, are we clear with it? Are we clear with that? Yes, everyone? Are you clear with what is being called as consistency? Okay, right, okay. Okay, Binadi, yes, I will go it again, right? Consistency කියන්නේ දුව දෙයක් වෙනස් නොවි වැඩි කාලයක් පැවතීම. Right? එතකොට අපිට මේ relational database එක මෙයා වරගත්තොත් ඒ කියන්නේ මේ data redundancy අඩු කරපු තැන ගත්තොත් අපිට data එකක් change කරන්න වෙන්නේ කලාතුරකින් සහ එක තැනක්. Right? ඒ කියන්නේ මෙතන තියෙන්නේ changes පොඩ්ඩයි. මෙයාව ගත්තොත් data එකක් change කරන්නොත් changes ගොඩාක් කරන්න තියෙනවා. ඒක නිසා අපි කියනවා මෙතන consistency කියන එක අඩුයි මෙතන consistency කියන එක වැඩි කියලා. Got the point, dude? Right. Okay. So then we are talking about the efficiency. So now if you want to find who has borrowed a particular book, the easy way is with the help of a relational database, right? It is easy to find. Here, if the particular list is big, it will be hard to find. But here, it doesn't matter whether you got a small list or a big list. You have the references, so you can quickly find who has borrowed which book on which date. So it increases the efficiency, right? So it saves time. Within short amount of period, you can take whatever you want, right? And again, it comes to the accuracy as well. Actually, the accuracy and the consistency goes together, right? මොකද changes අඩුයි කියලා කියන්නේ වරදින්න තියෙන ප්‍රමාණය අඩුයි. ඒ කියන්නේ නිවැරදි බව වැඩි කියන එක. Right? Changes වැඩි කියලා කියන්නේ වරදින්න තියෙන ප්‍රමාණය වැඩි මෙතන වගේ ඒ කියන්නේ accuracy අඩුයි කියන එක. Right? So just think like in case if you forgot to change this Firoza Lai into Firoza Rafiq. So the next time you will see there are Firoza Rafiq and there is a Firoza Lai as well. So then you will be getting second thoughts, which would be the correct name, right? So it affects the accuracy, right? So minimizing the redundancy will increase the consistency. That will increase the accuracy, right? So as well as validity can also be maintained or increased, right? Because the accuracy consistency will give you a valid data, right? And that increase the reliability as well, right? Viswasavanta bhavayat very. Right now, when it comes to the validation techniques, it is special to have the validation techniques in an electronic database, not in a manual one. Even you can manage the particular validation techniques even in the manual database, but not as much as that you are doing things in the electronic database, right? So when it comes to the electronic database, like as an example, if you think you are going to enter a national identity card number into a table, so we can say the column that contains the national identity card number must contain 12 numbers. So we can say it is a number type and it contains only 12, not less than that, not larger than that. Now, when you are storing things manually, we won't be able to do such validation. එතකොට එක digit එකක් හරි වැරදිලා NIC එක digits 11කින් ලිව්වොත් in a manual system it won't detect. It will be a human error. But in an electronic database, if you provide such thing, we can create the rules to check when the data is being inserted, whether it got 12 characters and all 12 characters are numbers. So in case if any criteria goes wrong, we will be alerted or we will be given a warning message. You are doing this in a wrong manner. Please do it in the correct way. Right? So it increases the validity and the security. Right? So when it comes to the security, we can secure the databases. If it is a manual one, we have to lock it in a particular cupboard, or we can put it on a book rack or a bookshelf in a very safe manner. But when it comes to the electronical part, you can give the usernames, you can provide the passwords, which will increase the security. Oh, that's nice, Susu. And again, I love you, Daddy. I love you, Susu. And again, you can use some advanced techniques like encryption. Right? So encryption in simple terms, you can scramble, you can change your original data into something scrambled, which cannot be recognized by a third party using the encryption. So when you need to refer that data again, you can decrypt. That means a reverse process of encryption. So you can have the actual data, then you can refer that. So encryption and decryption can also be taken when we are maintaining data in an electronic database. Right, so those are given as the features of a database. So let's write those things down, then we can end the session. Yeah, so have the heading people, features of database. And you can put number 1 and say minimal data redundancy. Right. And yeah, you can copy this to indicate what is data redundancy. And I'll give you the latter part.
So what is the number 1?
Number one is the minimal data redundancy. So under that, you can write the definition of redundancy. Okay, can we move forward? Okay, moving forward. And you can say this to the same content in the same paragraph. Right, can we move forward? Okay, moving forward. Yeah, and people, do we need to write? No, we don't need to, we don't need to. Right, then data consistency. Yeah, you can have this. Yes, in Upama, this is the second point. Data consistency is the number 2. All right. So with that, I'm going to end the session for today. We'll write down the rest of the things by next week, people. Right, so next week we are going to meet as usual for the same time, people. So have a very good night, and I'll see you on next week for the very same time. Right, so thank you very much. Okay. Gavidu, you can complete. The people who have completed the things, you can leave the session. Right, have a very good night, people. Thank you very much. Right, okay, thank you.